Right, I'm on lunch break right now, trying to sneak in a few things on the project before I get back to the boring work. But it is the work that pays the bills and things like that, so got to do it. Anyway, I reached out to Andy last night about the issue with the charge not properly being pulled, I guess low, not being pulled low when it should be charging. And he had mentioned that there were a few boards that had errors on them because he was swapping out resistors to fine-tune the charging current that goes into the battery when the USB plug is plugged in. And so he had pointed out that the couple of resistors that might be the issue for why that's happening. And I was able to look at it. R1, really tiny on the board. You're never going to be able to see it unless I had a little USB microscope, which I think would be fun to have because I've just, like I said, been using this little magnifying glass. It makes it a little hard to see these things. But when I looked really close into that, first I measured it with my meter. He gave me what the values of R1 and R2 should be. R2 is reading right around there. It's like 7K or something. R1 on my meter was reading almost short, like 1 ohm or something like that. And as I looked at it really close under the microscope, you can't see it when you're looking like this. It just looks like all the parts are on there perfect and nice and looks pretty. But when I had the microscope, the magnifying glass on there, I could see that R1 looks to be lifted up off the board a little bit. And so I think what may be happening is just when he was, because these are the two resistors that he was swapping out to fine-tune the charge current, it looks like R1 maybe lifted up just a little bit and maybe has some solder flow underneath or just a fleck or something of solder that's connecting the pads and essentially shorting it out. And so I think I could try to fix this. The spacing is really, really tight. And I've done some SMD soldering, but this is, I think these are 04 components, footprints, which are tiny, and a couple things. Having done this before, first of all, you start soldering this and the iron just picks it right up into the solder. You could lose it inside of a solder ball, or you grab it with tweezers and they kind of twist a little bit and you drop it and it's gone. Like, you're never gonna find it. It falls into my carpet, it's gone forever. Like, I'll never find it again. So I'm debating on whether to fix it or not, because what Andy said when he got back to me was that the other board definitely works. He had tested that on one of the other ones. And so I just need to confirm that it works through my firmware. And so if I've got another one where everything's soldered on and done right, I should just be able to test it there with my firmware. I don't know. I guess I need to understand more what the implications are of this being shorted, if that's going to ruin anything if I try to plug a battery in and charge it, or if I should just avoid that altogether on this board. But I feel like if I pull it off, I might not be able to get it back on, and I don't know if I want to mess with that, since really, again, my purpose on all this is just to confirm layout wise that the PCB is in a good spot and that we don't need to do any revisions there. And so I'm definitely going to test it on the other board first before I try to fix this to make sure it works. And then if I need to and I get back to it, I think I'll come back to trying to fix this. I think I bury a lot of time and stress and ultimately probably end up losing the resistor because, Murphy's Law and such, that I think I'll just leave this one as is and grab one of the known working ones. See, he labeled all these. This is PCB prototype number 3. One of the other ones he mentioned, I think it's 0, is inside one of those pucks that I have, and so I'll pull that out and find out which one has 0, and then I'll put my firmware up on that and run the test, and I think we should be good. So that's gonna have to wait till later though, because I gotta get back to work. Okay, so update from earlier. I've had some good back and forth with Andy on the boards, and it looks like this number 3 that I have is just one that I really shouldn't be testing with because it's got a few things that still need to be worked out. And so I'm gonna try the firmware on this board 0 here to see if we have some better luck with that. Also, I've made a couple of calls. I'm researching doing fab and assembly locally to see what kind of options there are. So everybody talks about how much cheaper it is to do in China, which is not debatable. It's true, it's going to be cheaper, but there is something about being able to go to a local operation, see the people, talk to the people, have conversations that aren't spanning, the other side of the globe, all those time zones where, like on the displays, when I was working with Good Display, I'm up at 11 to 1 if I want to have multiple emails back and forth with them, because that's their workday over there. And so, you know, there's things like that. There's communication issues as well, of being able to sit down and actually have something in hand, talk to another person right here local to me. And so anyway, I'm just exploring quotes. So I made a few phone calls to local fabrication options as well as assembly. I sent files over. I'm going to get some quotes back to see, you know, if it's comparable. Obviously, if you're making 1 million units of something, you know, saving 50 cents per board is a huge deal, or even $1 a board. In low quantity, at least for now, for me, that cost is not worth, that cost difference, if it ends up being that, is not worth having to deal with somebody in China finding a supplier, manufacturer, whatever, fab house, assembly, working through any issues that there may be with that, then having them ship it over to me. Sometimes the turnaround time on that can be a lot of, you know, 5, 6, 7 weeks. And so anyway, just exploring options to try and figure out what the logistics are of getting all this stuff put together and assembled so I can ship this, what I'm calling pilot run. I have found out, having talked to several people, when they hear production and then you say 100 units, I can tell people are trying not to laugh. And so, and it's really, for me, it's production because I guess I'm not using the right terms, but it's really what would be termed a pilot run. I'm testing market. It's more than a prototype run, which is like this 5 board run. And so we're calling it the pilot run now of 100 units to see how things go. And so anyway, I was able to do that just in between. You know, I'm sneaking some of this stuff in between work, you know, send off an email at work, waiting for a response or Slack message and waiting for somebody. You know, you pick up the phone, make a phone call out to a local fab house and get some information, get to know them a little bit better. And so I'll let you know when I get quotes back on that. Very interested to see what kind of price point we come in at there to do this stuff locally. And then, of course, seeing if the quality's there. I need them to make 1 or 2 of these for me, both on the PCB and assembly side, to see if their stated capabilities actually match the output and I get working boards from them. And so right now I'm gonna plug my firmware onto this board 0, which should have everything working, and we'll see if the charge and PGOOD signals are working as I would expect. So that's what's up next.